There's a moment you don't talk about. The moment you whisper to yourself, "Why am I never enough?" You try, you push, you keep going, and still, something inside you feels unfinished. It's like the world claps for you, but your heart stays quiet. If you've ever lived your life trying to earn a sense of worth that never seems to come, this is for you. Imagine this. It's late. The room is dim and blue. The glow from your laptop fades as the last task of the day finally ends. You close the screen, and the silence grows loud. You should feel relief. You should feel proud. You did everything you were supposed to do today. But instead, you feel that familiar emptiness spreading through your chest. It's soft but heavy, quiet but consuming. A hollow echo that says, "Not enough. Not yet." You sit there, hands still shoulders, tight watching the shadows move across the wall. And somewhere deep within you, a voice whispers the same sentence you've heard your entire life. You could have done better. You remember the comments that shaped you, the small sighs, the disappointed looks, the silent comparisons, the moments when you tried so hard, but someone made you feel it wasn't quite enough. Maybe it came from family, maybe from school, maybe from people who never truly saw you, or maybe from the version of yourself that learned to survive by carrying impossible expectations. You grew up believing that your value was measured by effort results, achievements, productivity, never by your presence, never by simply existing. So now, even as an adult, you push yourself past exhaustion. You smile when you're tired. You help when you're hurting. You work harder every time you feel the anxiety rising. Because slowing down scares you. Rest feels dangerous. Stillness feels like failure. You've built a life on top of a quiet fear. If I stop trying, people will see the real me, and that version isn't enough. Maybe you recognize this feeling in little moments. The way you replay conversations, wondering if you said something wrong. The way you say, "It's okay," even when something hurts deeply. The way you hide pride, because it feels uncomfortable to acknowledge your own efforts. The way a single mistake outweighs 100 successes. You hold yourself to standards you would never demand from anyone else. And every day you try again. Not because you want perfection, but because you fear what happens if you don't reach it. Picture this scene. You're standing in front of the mirror. Your reflection looks back at you, tired, a little worn, and not sure why everything feels so heavy. Nothing is wrong, but nothing feels right either. It's like you're chasing a finish line that keeps moving further. You've built your identity around being dependable, capable, strong, yet inside you feel fragile in a way no one ever sees. You carry so much: expectations, responsibilities, unspoken pressure, silent fear of disappointing the people you love. But the weight you carry isn't just from today. It's from years of believing affection must be earned. Love must be proven. Worth must be justified. You learn to perform, to perfect, to overextend, because being yourself never felt safe enough. And maybe the most painful part, no matter how far you've come, the child inside you still wonders, why do I feel like a burden unless I'm useful? Why does approval disappear so quickly? Why can't I feel proud like everyone else? Why do I only feel worthy when I'm achieving something? Let me tell you something gently, something you might not have heard before. This feeling didn't start with adulthood. It didn't start with your job, or your relationships, or the pressure you feel now. It started with a wound, a moment, a pattern, a story your nervous system wrote long ago. A story that said being enough is something you have to earn. And every part of your life since then has been shaped by that belief. Tonight, in this quiet moment, I want you to sit with one truth. You were never supposed to live like this, measuring yourself against invisible lines, grading your worth in silence, working endlessly to feel okay. You deserve to understand where this feeling truly comes from, so you can finally stop carrying a burden that was never yours. And we're going to explore that together, slowly, gently, honestly. This is where your voiceover part 1 ends. When you're ready, we continue deeper. There's a feeling you carry in your chest that you rarely talk about, a quiet pressure, a tightening, a sense that you're always one step behind, even when you're leading. You don't usually show it. You've become good at hiding it in productivity, in humor, in helping others, in staying busy enough that the discomfort never fully settles. But sometimes in the small cracks of your day, you notice it. Like when someone praises you and your first instinct is to reject it. Like when you accomplish something and the satisfaction lasts only a few seconds before the next fear rises. What if I can't do it again? Like when you're surrounded by people yet feel like an imposter in your own life. This is the emotional landscape of someone who has spent years trying to become enough. It shows up in subtle ways. You double-check everything. You apologize too quickly. You overthink harmless moments. You feel guilty when you rest. You struggle to receive compliments because they don't feel like they belong to you. There's a quiet trembling beneath your confidence, a fear beneath your accomplishments, a longing beneath your strength. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are someone who has learned to carry too much for far too long and to understand why we have to go back. Not to one event, but to the emotional blueprint you grew up with. Because the root of never enough almost always begins in childhood. Your story didn't start with failure. It started with longing. A longing for recognition, for safety, for the feeling of being held, not for what you did, but for who you were. But somewhere in your early years, the equation shifted. Maybe you had caregivers who loved you, but were emotionally inconsistent, warm one moment, distant the next. So your nervous system learned to work for connection instead of receiving it freely. Maybe you had a parent who praised achievement, not humanity, who celebrated your wins, but ignored your feelings. So you learned that love appears only when you perform. Maybe you grew up in a home where mistakes were magnified and accomplishments were the baseline. So you shaped your personality around avoiding disappointment. Maybe you weren't the loud one. Maybe you weren't the favored one. Maybe you were the quiet child who kept everything together so everyone else wouldn't fall apart. Or maybe you were the strong one, the one who acted mature too early, the one who didn't want to add to anyone's burden, the one who swallowed their emotions to keep the peace. This is what psychologists call parentification, when a child becomes the emotional adult of the family. And children who grow up like that almost always become adults who feel not enough. Because when you're raised to serve other people's needs, you forget how to recognize your own. Your inner child learned a painful truth. If I don't try hard, I will be overlooked. If I'm not perfect, I'll be rejected. If I slow down, someone will be disappointed. And your body believed it. Your nervous system believed it. Your entire identity believed it. This is how hypervigilance is born, a constant scanning, a constant bracing, a constant fear that the next mistake will cost you the love you've never been sure you deserve. So you grew up becoming the overachiever, the caretaker, the responsible one, the mediator, the quiet adjuster, the one who makes things easier for everyone else. But no one ever asked, what about you? What do you need? What do you feel? What did you lose by growing up too early? No one noticed how much you rearranged yourself to fit the expectations around you. You learned to be useful. You learned to be good. You learned to be reliable. But you never learned to feel worthy. You learned to survive, not to feel enough. And here's something important. The child in you wasn't wrong. They simply adapted to a tough environment. They did what they had to do. They built a system, a strategy, a survival blueprint. But now you're older, you're safer, you're more capable, you have more autonomy. Your life is not the same as it once was, yet the blueprint hasn't changed. Your brain still operates as if you must earn safety, earn belonging, earn love. You're no longer living the childhood that created the wound, but you're still living under its rules. And that's why the feeling persists, why it clings to you, why no amount of achievement ever fills the emptiness. Because you're trying to fix an emotional wound with accomplishments, and accomplishments were never the cure. Every time you hit a goal, your brain simply raises the bar. Every time you succeed, your brain whispers, "Good, now prove it again." Not because you're broken, but because a frightened child inside you still believes that love disappears the moment you stop performing. You don't notice it at first. The wound hides itself in your habits, in your routines, in the small behaviors you repeat every day without realizing they are symptoms of something deeper. It shows up in the way you double-check messages before sending them, in the way you rehearse conversations in your head, in the way you scan a room measuring yourself against everyone else without meaning to. You take on too much. You work when you're tired. You keep saying yes, even when your whole body is begging you to say no. You replay mistakes that no one else even noticed. You apologize for things that weren't your fault. You question your worth in situations where your worth is not even up for debate. You over-explain. You over-deliver. You overthink. You overgive. And when you receive even the smallest criticism, your heart sinks. Not because what they said was harsh, but because it confirmed the fear you've been holding for years. See, I'm not enough. This is emotional conditioning. Your nervous system responds as if every mistake is proof of unworthiness, as if every silence is rejection, as if every delay in response means someone is disappointed in you. You try harder, you push further, you swallow exhaustion like it's part of being alive. But beneath all of it is a question you're too scared to ask out loud. If I stop trying, will anyone stay? This fear shapes so much of your behavior, your perfectionism, your people-pleasing, your self-doubt, your difficulty resting, your constant need to prove something to someone, even though you're not sure who anymore. And the saddest part, you think you're the only one who feels this way, but you're not. Many people who grew up without stable emotional safety carry this same silent shame, the shame of never feeling enough for anyone, including themselves. Here's the truth you were never told. Healing from not enough is not about doing more. It's about doing less. It's not about trying harder. It's about unlearning the belief that you have to earn your worth. Healing begins when you stop running from the feeling and finally sit with it. Not to judge it, not to fix it, but to understand it. Imagine sitting beside the younger version of yourself, the child who tried so hard, who carried too much, who believed love was conditional. Imagine telling them softly, "You did nothing wrong. You were always enough." They just didn't know how to show it. This is inner child reconnection, not through dramatic gestures, but through small internal moments where you allow yourself compassion instead of criticism. And healing also means recognizing this truth. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to justify your needs. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. You don't have to perform to be worthy. Worthiness is not a prize. It's your baseline. It's your birthright. But your brain won't believe this instantly. It needs time. It needs repetition. It needs gentleness. Healing is slow, and that's beautiful. It means you're building a life not based on fear, but based on presence. And slowly you start to notice changes. You pause before saying yes. You allow yourself to rest without guilt. You accept compliments without shrinking. You notice when your inner critic is too loud. You soften the standards that once crushed you. You begin to treat yourself with the kindness you've always shown everyone else. The goal isn't to become perfect. It's to become real, to become whole, to become someone who finally understands, I don't need to prove anything to be worthy. So if no one has ever told you this before, let me say it clearly. You are enough, not because of what you do, not because of how much you try, not because of how strong you pretend to be. You are enough simply because you exist. The feeling of not enough is not a truth, it's a memory, a reflex, a wound. But wounds can heal, reflexes can change, stories can be rewritten, and you're already beginning that process just by listening, by reflecting, by choosing to understand yourself instead of judging yourself. When the old voice whispers, "You're not enough," try responding softly, "I am, and I always have been." You may not believe it the first time, or the 10th, but one day your nervous system will understand what your heart is finally allowed to feel. As we close here, take a breath, release the weight you've been carrying, and remember, you were never meant to earn your worth. You were meant to live it. Thank you for listening, and if you're ready, we'll continue this journey together in the next topic.